I know you guys are both aspiring certified flavorists. What does that process look like?
Absolutely brutal. Being able to taste a product and picking out those compounds organoleptically or by taste.
Coffee is really robust. You're not going to need to add those kinds of flavor compounds to the flavor because the coffee is going to carry that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Flavor. In this episode, we're going to go behind the creation with two of our up-and-coming flavorists here at Beck Flavors. I have with me today Hunter Rohlf and Nick Viriyasiri. They're two of our flavorists here at Beck Flavors that are working through their certification processes. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing great. How about you?
Not too bad.
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us. So today we kind of want to do a bit of a deep dive on behind the creation because as a flavorist and an aspiring certified flavorist, you guys work a lot on creating flavors, which is very different than some of the formulation work that we've talked about in past episodes. Nick, I kind of want to start with you. How did you get to Beck? What does that look like? It's something we ask everybody that joins our Beck team.
Well, I mean, I've always had this natural curiosity in food science and science in general, and then it actually kind of started with a show on the Food Network that I would watch when I would come home from school called Good Eats with Alden Brown.
Yeah, and then that really seemed to like spark your interest into the flavor in chemistry and food science, it sounds like. So did you were you in high school at that point? And then when you started going to college, how'd you come across Beck itself?
Well, I mean, I didn't even know about food science at the time until I got into my sophomore year of college where I was taking organic chemistry. I was having a conversation with my professor, and I was like, I love chemistry and I love cooking and food and everything, and I'm like, how do I tie the two together? And it wasn't until then she was like, yeah, I got a family member that works at Hershey's and knows everything there is to know about chocolate and down to the molecule. I'm like, from there I'm like, that is super cool. Then
from there you got to come here, you started shadowing Rick, and I'm assuming that's when it really peeled back the layer on layer on what flavor really is.
Oh, absolutely. Once I came in and we had a conversation with him and just kind of hung out with him for a good half day, and if you've seen his podcast, he's the most not intimidating person in the world.
True that.
So it was such a relief, and he kind of shared all there is what flavor chemistry is about and what the world is like, and from that point on I fell in love. And
yeah, that's awesome. That's interesting too on how you learned about it and then started coming this way with it. So Hunter, as we do with every guest, we got to ask you the same question. How'd you come to Beck? How could you come to know about Beck and flavorists and the flavor world in general?
Yeah, well, my beginning was somewhat similar to Nick's, where I had a passion for cooking and a passion for science. Mizzou is the only food science program in the state. I went and I got to shadow a student in the food science program at Mizzou, and I fell in love. And shortly after I found out about food science was watching an episode of How It's Made with Jelly Belly jelly beans, and that they have their own certified flavor chemist on staff, and I was like, flavor chemist? That sounds cool.
Yeah, that's interesting as heck.
Yeah. So at Mizzou, I was going for a bachelor's in food science with a minor in chemistry with the thought that I wanted to try my hand at flavor chemistry.
Yeah, and then from there, both of you kind of did an internship here at Beck, and then per usual, we were growing and needed more people, so that's how you guys kind of got on board here at Beck. What does it start for, Nick? Day one, right? You're coming in to start learning about, do you just start making new flavors, or where do we start at there? What does it look like?
It really starts with a pure curiosity of of how flavors work and the science behind it, and just a pure love for like food. I've been in the restaurant business for over 10 years and still am. Fun fact, I was a hibachi chef for 10 years. Those guys that cook in front of you and throw shrimp in your mouth, that was me. Just food and flavors in general is just like a part of our DNA. That's half of a big part of the equation. And becoming a flavorist, it starts with compounding.
Yeah, and I think what you're kind of saying there too, Nick, is, and I'll kind of toss this back to you, Hunter, but it's kind of the same thing you're saying, like compounding, cooking the same recipes, learning your ingredients. I mean, they can't teach it in school, can they? It's all about experience. So how long, Hunter, would you say it took you from simple compounding to like being able to be like, introducing new ingredients to tailor flavors or change them or create them, if you will?
I mean, honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out.
So it's ongoing.
Yeah. When I started as an intern, you get handed a formula, and you don't exactly know what the different raw materials do. But then after I graduated, I was in quality assurance, quality control for a year, and then that's when it honestly really started, because we were testing all of the raw materials and tasting them by itself. So that honestly really helped me a lot, getting to taste the raw material flavor compounds by themselves, and then relate that to, oh, that's that note in a chocolate flavor.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense there. And I'm assuming it's pretty similar for you when you talk about the compounding, even though you might not have done it on like the quality side or bringing it, or maybe you have. It's the same thing, like kind of once you start tasting those materials, you can kind of pick out their notes there.
No matter what, when we're compounding it, it's just keep on building those flavors, and every ingredient you use, that once you add it, like I always tell the interns that that we have every summer, like just smell each and every one of them, and before you throw away that pipette, and just get a note, just to get a feel of what that smells like, what kind of profile it brings, because from there it'll start becoming more and more familiar.
Yeah, I think what you're kind of getting at too is like it's kind of like a Pokedex, right? Like you're starting to add in more and more and more different logs of experiences with those ingredients. So let me kind of back it up a little bit too. So I know you guys are both aspiring certified flavorists. What does that process look like?
Absolutely brutal. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
How long did it take you before you were able to kind of start not just compounding, but tweaking or making new flavors?
It's every day you're still becoming more and more familiar with it, because like you gotta know it in and out. But I would say the first 3 years of just pure compounding and just being more and more familiar with each material. I wouldn't say till like year 4 or 5 or even 6 be able to build a flavor from ground up.
From the ground up, yeah, that's actually a long time, which kind of brings us back into the certified flavorist, right? So it kind of makes sense from my understanding. After you get your food science degree and your chemistry degree, then you got to work 7 years under a certified flavorist, and then from there, don't you got to take an exam and stuff? What does that look like?
Oh yeah, that's the brutal part. Quite intensive, but practically that's what it takes to to build flavors. But yeah, the certification process is pretty intense, and it's really about working one-on-one with your mentors and your certified flavor chemist, your senior chemist. We have 2 great senior chemists that we both learn from every day, and they're just a wealth of knowledge, and just picking their brains every single day is the biggest advantage that we have.
Yeah, because I guess there's not really a database, Hunter, that has all the information present. It's more of you kind of rely on them, don't you?
Yeah, and to become a certified flavor chemist, you need a minimum of 7 years total of apprenticeship under a certified flavor chemist. So I mean, you're supposed to work directly with them. You're supposed to know everything that they know. But to do it over 7 years, you really get comfortable with that person and learn everything that they know. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how you guys like pull it all together. So we've talked a lot in a couple other episodes. So I think this kind of plays in part to, you know, being a flavorist. But we talk a lot about a mass spec GC machine and how you can like look at things on a molecular level. So I guess my question would be is when they like refer to you guys as like mass spec GCs,
Or human GC.
or human GCs. It's not like the best analogy, but not also the worst analogy either, because it's amazing the way you guys can like pick out different notes and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, we're never gonna be as precise as that piece of instrument. And for those guys that don't know, like a GC is just a fancy instrument that we can stick volatile samples in there, and then it'll break apart each and every compound and then separate them out and then be able to measure how much and then identify what compounds those are. We can't rely on the GC, you know, all the time. It's purely a tool, and that's something that, you know, I'm so glad that during our training process that, you know, our mentors really like kind of didn't allow that to be a crutch for us, and to really purely rely on our senses and our familiarity with all these raw materials and being able to taste product and picking out those compounds organoleptically or by taste.
What a great word there that I can't really pronounce. Organoleptically. That's a really good one there. So Hunter, I kind of want to throw this one up to you. So since now we're talking about creations and what it's like to become a flavorist, why don't you talk a little bit to me about, if you guys haven't seen the episode yet, I would encourage you to check out our episode with Ozzie Smith, where we talk about his backflip product. But Hunter, you were actually one of the flavorists that worked on those. So what was it like coming up with those flavors, creating the new flavors, creating the beverages as well?
Yeah, well, first off, I don't think I'll ever get to work on a cooler project than to be one-on-one with Ozzie Smith in a tasting panel. Like, that was really freaking cool. You know, we were given some ideas from Ozzie and, you know, the board of, you know, backflip beverages, but the ones that really stuck were a cranberry screwdriver, and then a spiced pear, kind of a fall whiskey-based canned cocktail, has some, you know, interesting clove and other spice notes. But
Complex.
Pear, and with the whiskey background, it really makes it really complex.
Yeah, that one ended up being my favorite of like the lineup, was that spice pear whiskey one. You said something interesting there that I don't want to just pass up though. So you were kind of saying there's like a couple ways to work off of like a flavor creation, where not only can you just like build a new flavor, but you can also take like existing flavors and combine them at times or mix them together.
There's so many flavor combinations out there that it's not just one flavor. It's combining 2, 3, or 4 flavor profiles together. Really, it's just like with the spiced pear whiskey. I mean, I went through, you know, maybe 10 different trials of combining a pear flavor and like a spice blend flavor extract, and being like, oh, this spice blend like just takes over the entire drink. You can't even taste the pear. And this pear profile doesn't really match with, you know, this heavy clove spice extract. So just going back and forth, experimenting and tasting, and really bringing it around to several people to get their opinions on it, will really hone in what the best, you know, ratio with flavor combinations is.
Yeah, that's so interesting how that works. And I know I love being here at Beck because I get to be a part of those tastings when you guys are bringing them around. So Nick, let's pivot back to you here too, because one of the ones that you created was very popular around 2025 was the Dubai chocolate. How did that go for you? Like, was it starting with the base flavor, or how'd you get the right ratios of pistachio and chocolate? What was that like, trying to develop that flavor?
Yeah, that's definitely one that's been trending a lot, and starting from the market product, getting to try a bunch of Dubai chocolate on the market. You know, we tough job sometimes. Gotta taste a lot of chocolate. It's an
indulgent job right there.
Sometimes it's vodka, sometimes it's coffee, sometimes it's chocolate. I know it's tough, but I'm really looking for, you know, what makes that Dubai chocolate special. So, like what I in my opinion, like a lot of the Dubai chocolates were super creamy, like a super creamy chocolate, and with like the kunafa crunch pieces, kind of similar to like Nestle Crunch, but like a little bit more toasted and stuff like that. And then of course it has the pistachio in there. And then my job as a flavorist is to try and capture those aspects into a flavor. So
how many revisions do you think that took you? He was saying you went through like quite a few trials doing like the spice pear vanilla one, but I'm assuming it probably took you quite a few.
It can be a few trials. You can be trialing it up to 10 or more. Doing these minor tweaks just getting it right. But yeah, for that one, I mean, I was originally developing it on coffee, and developing flavors for coffee has their own challenges. And
for any of you out there that would like to try that Dubai chocolate flavor, just a reminder to go to www.beckflavors.com, smash that request a sample button, and let them know all your information, and we'll get you a sample sent right over. Yeah, so Nick was kind of talking a lot there about how like making that Dubai chocolate, you really got to think about like the application in it. So how does that work for you, Hunter? Like when you're making a flavor, it can't just work in everything from alcohol to confection to coffee. What are some of the things that come up in that sense?
Well, to go with that, like Beck Flavors is kind of unique. We're not going to send you a cookie cutter sample that 100 other flavor companies have received before either. Like we're going to try and tailor it specifically to what your application is. So like Nick developed this flavor for coffee, which has not only those like brown notes, the brown canvas that we were talking about, but the flavor is also going to go through a completely different process than if you're going to put a flavor in like a flavored whiskey. So you have to really think about what you're adding the flavor to when you're building the flavor. During like the hot brewing process for coffee, you're going to have a carrier that will withstand the 100 degrees Celsius water that is involved in the coffee brewing process. Whereas if you're making a flavored whiskey, you obviously don't go through that intense heat process. With coffee flavors, they're a lot more concentrated because of those temperature differences. Your alcohol flavors are going to be a little more dilute because you're just adding it straight to the flavor product. Some candy and confectionery companies, they have like an oil-based candy flavor, or for like a chocolate, you're going to need an oil-soluble flavor for that. So you're going to have an oil-soluble carrier versus if you're going to have like a soda flavor, and that's mostly water. You're going to have a water-soluble carrier with that. If you're making like a coffee flavor, coffee is really roasty, robust. You're not going to need to add those kinds of flavor compounds to the flavor because the coffee is going to carry that. Where like if you're adding it to like a chocolate, you don't really need those chocolate notes in your flavor because it's already going to be present in the flavor.
So you get to like pick and choose kind of some molecules that you would put in if you're trying to make it like a coffee ice cream. You would need to add some of those brown notes or those brown canvases that we were talking about. But if it's in the coffee, those are already built in the application.
Yeah. So
you don't have to intentionally add those. Back to you, because we're kind of talking about the differences in when you need to add molecules and not add molecules. So I guess if you have like a flavor that's already been developed as a natural and artificial flavor, and somebody wants to move that flavor to natural, is it as easy as taking ethyl alcohol and then just putting in like the non-ethyl alcohol, like 1-to-1, or does it take like a little more thought and process?
As much as flavor creation is an art, it's as much of a science as well. So like knowing the chemistry behind a lot of the compounds and ingredients that we use is super important, and then the chemistry that goes on within the interactions it'll have with the application itself. Like let's say we're talking, it's going to sit in that whiskey. There are also considerations of like what it's going to do just sitting in that whiskey on the shelf for a year. And
Is like artificial versions of ingredients the same as natural? Can they vary? How do you like kind of identify those type of things?
Yeah, sometimes they are, and sometimes it's an easy switch, just switching from the artificial version to the natural version, and we're getting these requests a lot, especially now. Yeah, I mean, this has been the shift forever now to natural, and then now organic to non-GMO, organic, all that stuff too. But knowing the science and the chemistry of it is important. Like,
Yeah, I've noticed that too, like with the health kick that's been going on, even in a lot of the demos. And if you haven't checked out episode 3 of Formulation with Adam Berge, in those ones, we talked a lot about how, like, even with the healthy products, like, you won't have everything solubilized because the mushrooms, like, so some of these consumers who are looking for natural things, they understand that it's usually not like a one-to-one. You can't make an exact grape Jolly Rancher that's natural because so many artificial things play into it tasting the way it does.
and sometimes maybe the answer isn't just replacing a compound with another compound. Like, just to go back on the point of there's so much at our disposal nowadays as a flavorist. It's wonderful, and so I might substitute it with like something that came from a natural source. So this, like, maybe a botanical extract or concentrate or an oil that contains a lot of the same compounds that I'm trying to add to it anyways, or the same kind of notes to it. Like, if it naturally has a lot of these like citral and geranium notes that are like give it that lemony vibe to it. And I love building flavors and like building complexity, but without making it complicated and making it complex at the same time.
You like it to keep it easy for production and stuff.
I-
At times making it easier on them
I
goes a
try
long
to.
way. Yeah, let's kind of finish it off, and maybe you guys can, maybe you guys can't. We'll start with you here, Hunter. But what's your favorite industry to make flavors for? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah. I have always really enjoyed like the alcohol industry. My first internship was for a vineyard and winery, Edgecliff Vineyard Winery in Potosi, Missouri. So that really sparked my interest in alcoholic beverage production. And then after that, I got into brewing my own beer and then collecting and trying different rare bourbons and stuff. So making flavors for the alcohol industry has always kind of been my favorite because I enjoy consuming them the most out of all of the different industries that we work with.
Yeah, no doubt. Same thing for you, Nick. Do you got a favorite industry?
I mean, they're all fun. I mean, I really enjoy like these just kind of wacky flavors that the energy drink kind of customers they come out with, and they're what kind of profiles they're looking for, because like the canvas is blank for that. They'll take whatever crazy idea you can come up with, and it doesn't even matter. Like, if it tastes exactly like the fruit or not. You can get so creative and so out there sometimes with those, and I mean, those are enjoyable.
Yeah, the energy drink space is kind of wacky. Like, one of my favorite flavor combinations of all time is salted watermelon. And the energy drink canvas is really nice because you can have those wacky flavor combinations. Watermelon is a great classic flavor combination in and of itself, but then you add salt to it and it just becomes more complex, but you also add like a mouthfeel to it. Like, salt doesn't really have a flavor, but it has a mouthfeel. It's a sensation. So adding those two components really makes something kind of crazy and unique, which is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about for you, Nick?
I mean, we did like this. Did one with like an Arctic raspberry that had that like cooling effect with it too. So like you can get crazy with that. But I mean, with the watermelon, there's so many different profiles of watermelon. You can go like candy watermelon. You can go true to fruit. You can go like super juicy and even floral sometimes. And,
You could go like rindy.
Yeah, rindy. Yeah, super green, rindy.
Yeah.
Same thing like mango. Mango is like I did a lot of mango flavors for like energy drinks before, and like, you know, they that's like mango itself is like a fantasy flavor. Like,
Oh, that's an interesting one that like, and that's like the beauty and fun of it, right? Is like being able to take like these things that are outlandish to some, and then from there, just tie it together and make something that nobody thought would work, but works, right?
yeah, even like are we allowed to say like the CBD world?
Yeah, oh yeah. The THC and CBD world where we're formulating tons of beverages right now for it.
They also, they're experimental, like super experimental. They'll try some crazy, wacky flavors as well. We saw kind of crack the code on cherry recently, where in coffee, it always came across like cough medicine-y or super, you know, that medicinal. We made a cherry flavor that's a little more true to fruit, that's pretty juicy and then nice and bright. And so that's another like kind of
Jumped out and popped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and aldehyde, or I'm sorry, I say that because the medicinal note in cherry, but like the aldehyde was always like the big thing that was working against everybody in cherry flavor. Yeah.
Which is your classic maraschino cherry note, and but there's other notes too that have been like used traditionally, like in the past, that kind of that throws in more maybe black cherry, and and people always, whenever you have that black cherry profile, like perception always goes to cough syrup and stuff. So we tried something a little different and it ended up working really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody, for watching this episode of Behind the Flavor, where we went behind the creation. If you want to try any of the flavors that you've heard here today on this episode, please go to www.beckflavors.com, smash that request a sample button at the top, and we'll have somebody reach out to you with any of that sample. Also, below this video, please hit the subscribe, and we would love to hear some comments on some episodes you would want to see in the future. Thanks again for watching.